Good evening, everybody. My name is Raghutam Rao. This meeting is being recorded, and this is the information webinar for the 17th cohort of Gopalakrishnan Deshpande Center's INCUBATE program. Today, we will have a session which is about an hour long, where we will walk you through what this program is for about 45 minutes with the details of GDC and the program. And as the agenda has been shared in the invitation, we also have a couple of participants who've gone through it as entrepreneurs and one faculty who's kind of experienced it will come and share their experience towards the end. And then we will have a Q&A session at the end of it all. So hold your questions till we invite the Q&A session. Request once again to everyone to put their mics on mute, and we will get started underway. The two speakers we will have in sequence immediately after me are Rajiv Kumar Jain, who is our Chief Operating Officer, followed by KV Anand, our Chief Learning Officer. And together they will cover everything about GDC and how the INCUBATE program is structured to help researchers carry their research all the way to the market. So with that words, let me welcome you all once again and request Rajiv to start the presentation. Over to you, Rajiv.
Thank you. Thank you, Raghu. Thank you everyone for joining the information webinar. So in the next hour or so, we will try and give you a perspective about the program and how you can benefit from this program. So I assume that the fact that all of you are here, you're all keen in some manner to create your own startup. And what if I began by saying that the typical startup success rate is less than 10%, which means that 90% or more startups actually don't last very long. And, they definitely don't go on to become unicorns or anything. So what this program is about is how you can avoid the risk of the mistakes because of which most startups fail. The interesting thing is that, more than 40% of startups fail because they make something which no one needs. They have fantastic technology, but either there is no one who needs their product or they don't know where to find the customers who need their product. And many of the other reasons for failure stem from that, including running out of cash, developing differences amongst the startup entrepreneurs, etc. So, and a large part of these failures stem from the fact that startups tend to want to behave like large companies. And startups do not realize how they are different from large companies and how they should be approaching the creation of the business completely differently from what a large company does. So, if we look at how a startup is different from a mature large company. Now, essentially, if we look at first what the large company is doing, then we'll probably get a perspective and be able to compare it with how and what the small startup should be doing differently. A large company essentially knows who its customers are, how it has to approach things. That's knowledge that it has acquired over the life of its journey from commencing business to where it is today. So a large company is essentially about executing, and it knows what it needs to do. And you essentially need a set of people who get divided amongst different departments who are, executing what is there in the playbook or what they know from their past experience. And most importantly, they know where they are playing, they know the environment. While in the case of a startup, the first and the biggest challenge is that you have your technology, you have your solution. Now, the big problem for you is, whom do I sell it to? So it means that the first thing that you need to do is you need to find that unknown customer or set of customers who will be wanting your solution. Essentially, it also means that, startup entrepreneurs are young people who may not have too much of a knowledge about the domain in which they are operating. They may not have too much of a business experience. They may not have too much of a familiarity with business processes. And they are working with guesses. If we particularly look at the profile of the kind of entrepreneurs who come for INCUBATE, researchers from leading STEM universities in India, nearly all these people are very good with the technology, but have very little exposure with the business side of things. So when it comes to dealing with customers or creating the business, they're working with guesses, and they're essentially finding their way around. The message here is that a startup or the startup entrepreneurs need to realize that a startup is very different from a large company, and it's a temporary organization which is basically searching for a scalable and a repeatable business model. It's trying to find out who are the customers we should be selling to, how we should be selling to them, and how can this be made repeatable and scalable, so that someday that startup can hope to become a large company. So the INCUBATE program is essentially structured around tackling the challenges which researchers face in their journey to market. And we follow what is called as the lean startup methodology. The lean startup methodology is a relatively new body of management thinking, tailor-made or evolved as part of the growth of startups in the US. And it essentially took off in a big way after the financial crisis in 2008. A lot of the thinking of the lean startup methodology is taken from the Toyota lean framework for manufacturing. And it says that resources are limited and wastes have to be minimized. And, it is good to make incremental improvements rather than do everything at the same time. So the lean startup methodology builds on that Toyota lean framework and says that startups don't have resources, startups don't want to waste time. How can startups work incrementally and try and have a smooth passage to the market? An important thing to realize here is that lean startup methodology does not mean that if you follow this methodology, your success is guaranteed. Basically, it means that you will be making lesser mistakes on your journey to the market. And if along your journey to the market, you realize that there is no opportunity for you, you will probably realize it much faster rather than spending many, many years trying to break into the market. The essential assumptions or the tenets on which the lean startup methodology is built is that usually technology is not the cause of failure for startups. It may take time to build a rocket to take you into space and get you back, or take you to Mars and get you back. But technology generally will get ironed out if you are able to get the other elements of the business under control. The other founding principle, so to say, is that customers are not looking for your technology. Customers are looking for a need. So you may have developed technology to go to space, but customers are essentially looking for the fun of a space ride. And there's a huge difference between the two. Now, if you have to understand what customers are looking for, you need to step out of your research laboratory or your office or wherever you are based, and go and find a way to interact with customers and talk to them and ask them what is it that they are looking for. And this is essentially, I would say, the most important part that gets covered in the 8 weeks of the INCUBATE program. The other thing I have already covered is that startup is not a smaller version of a large company. Startup is essentially looking for a repeatable and a scalable business model. And the fact that it is a temporary organization, no one wants to be a startup all their life. Okay, so that's the fundamental body of management thinking, if I may call it, that we use for the INCUBATE program, and walk you through the 8-week program, which KV Anand will cover in a short while. Okay, a little bit about GDC. So GDC is an alumni-funded Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at IIT Madras. While we are based at IIT Madras, but GDC works with STEM colleges all across the country. And I will share with you a little later the representative list of some of the colleges that we work with regularly, and you will find that we are working with the top engineering colleges in the country. GDC is just about 4 years old now, and the people behind GDC are Dr. Gururaj Deshpande, his wife, Mrs. Jayashri Deshpande, who are based in the US, and Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan, ex-Infosys. GDC's mission is to fundamentally transform the impact which R&D from STEM colleges has to solve the problems that India faces. So the basic aim of GDC is to be able to support researchers to commercialize their research and do this with a higher chance of success. All this fundamentally entails transforming the fundamental thinking process of researchers to be more entrepreneurial. Now, if you look at the typical life cycle of a science-based startup, you know, it starts from an idea. You will have an idea, and you will create a prototype of, or a proof of concept. And most of the time, what happens is that a startup will skip these intermediate steps and straight away try to go to incubation and say that, okay, how can we incubate and we scale up? And this is the place the customer discovery and the MVP testing, the what we call the problem solution fit and the product market fit. These two steps tend to get missed out by most startups. And you know, if you correlate this to the earliest slide which I shared about the principal causes of failures of startups, you will realize that this is where they are missing out on trying to find out who their customers are. And without identifying who their customers are, they straight away go to want to scale up. And that's why they end up in a situation where they don't find their customers, or they don't know where their customers are. And GDC operates in this space where, we operate in the lab to market space. We have a number of programs that we offer at different stages of the journey of the startup. The INCUBATE program is focused.
You are not seeing this things. I have shared with you.
Hello. Hello. Yeah.
Just carry on, Rajiv.
Yeah. So GDC operates, the INCUBATE program is focused on this customer discovery, which is essentially the problem solution fit. And more of this when KV covers his part of details about the program. It's important for me to clarify what GDC does not do and what you will not get as part of the INCUBATE program. So GDC is not an incubator. So our charter is to basically build capacity of researchers trying to create startups. So we don't provide incubation facilities. You would need to go to a regular incubator and incubate your startup once you're convinced that you're wanting to incubate. We do not fund or invest in startups. So GDC is not a funding organization. We are also not a business accelerator. Okay, so we will basically, we fit into the innovation ecosystem to help you build your capacity. GDC also does not consult or provide individual advice. We basically run programs in cohorts, and we are we are a philanthropic organization. We do not seek revenue. We do not seek profits. We do not take any equity in any startups. And, you know, GDC is funded purely by philanthropic grants. What has been the journey of GDC so far? You know, we run, as I said, that we run multiple programs. I will focus here on the INCUBATE program. We have run 16 cohorts. 15 cohorts have been completed. We are currently running the 16th cohort, and this information webinar is for the 17th cohort. In these 16 cohorts, we've had more than 680 participants, more than 130 startup teams. And it's a mandatory requirement of INCUBATE that the team has to be led by a research faculty from one of the STEM institutions. So we have had more than 150 researchers and faculty members who've been part of previous INCUBATE cohorts. And we've so far partnered with 24 STEM colleges in this journey of the last 16 cohorts. This is more or less a, you know, I would focus on the right side of this slide where 52% of the startups or the teams which came into INCUBATE said that they find a problem solution fit and would want to move forward to try and take their startup to market by working on other aspects of the startup. And out of these 52% startups, you know, if you do your simple mathematics, means around 75 to 80 startups said that they have a go, and out of that 60 have been incubated. They've raised around 42 crore rupees of funds. So this is all testimony to the kind of difference which INCUBATE has been able to make to the startup teams that have been through the program. Some of the teams, some of the colleges that we are working with, you will find that most of the IITs, Indian Institute of Science, and all the leading STEM colleges in the country. The team behind GDC, we have a core team here, and we have a set of instructors. All, you know, the entire team and the instructors are all seasoned professionals and people who've spent or spent reasonable amount of time in trying to master the thinking behind lean startup so that they can contribute to your journey to success. So with that, I will pass over the baton to KV to talk you through about the more details about the INCUBATE program. KV.
Thanks, Rajiv. Okay. So here we talk about the program, the INCUBATE program. Rajiv already mentioned that this is based on the lean startup methodology. So, we took this program from the NSF's I-CORE program in the US. But the mission for this program, yes, it is based on lean startup methodology. It, is also based on the NSF's I-CORE program. But the mission for GDC is what you see on screen now. Number one, for this INCUBATE program, it actually works with the faculty and help the faculty commercializing their research ideas. What we have seen in the last 3.5 years working with faculty, and also we have worked with faculty who have attended the INCUBATE program with teams, not just one team, but 2, 3, sometimes one faculty with 2 teams in the same program. So that shows the amount of enthusiasm that faculty have in commercializing their research. So the number one goal for the INCUBATE Online program is helping the faculty commercialize their research ideas. We are not trying to convert academicians and faculty into entrepreneurs, but what we really focus on in this program is is bring about the entrepreneurial thinking, the mindset in academicians. We've had several instances where the faculty have come back and told us. We will hear from one of the faculty that have attended the program today. We've had faculty tell us that their approach to research has changed, or the way they look at creating research projects have changed. So these are some of the impact that we have already created. That's the number one goal. Second, we have researchers and students attending the program as the entrepreneurial leads. And again, building entrepreneurial capabilities in them. We have had teams that came in to the program as researchers. And when they left the program, they have told us that we are on our way to becoming entrepreneurs, or we have already started thinking like entrepreneurs. And that's the impact, the second impact that this program creates. And we use a process. The lean startup methodology is what we use, and we use a process called customer development. And the customer discovery process in that customer development framework is really what makes all the difference in this program, unlike other programs. Here, because Rajiv mentioned this, we help startups, not make something that people do not need, or there is no problem to solve with the solution that they have in mind. A lot of ideas are born in the research labs. The solution is built, but in several instances, we see that the solution has not really kept in mind the end user or the people who could benefit from the research that is done in the lab. So that's something that we focus on, and therefore we avoid startups going down the path of building something that nobody wants before they start investing or before they burn all the resources. So that's really, these are the key objectives of the INCUBATE program. The structure of the team, we have at least one. In some cases, we have had 2 faculty leads attending the program along with the team. Faculty leads here, we refer to the principal investigators or the professors from the institution, the STEM institution. And we have 3 to 5 entrepreneurial leads. The reason why we need at least 3 entrepreneurial leads, these are the researchers and students who work with the faculty leads and attend this program. The reason we ask for at least 3 is because the customer discovery process requires their teams, the startup teams, to talk to at least 100 customers during this program. And we've had teams that have come in the first week, they've said 100 is a very small number. We could do 500 because there are 5 of us. We could divide it. We can speak to 100 people each, and then we would have spoken to 500 people in 8 weeks. But later they realized that it is not so easy, because this is the first time researchers and students actually step out into the real world and start talking to people that they have never met before. Talking to strangers is not easy, and especially if you have an idea in your head, but if you're trying to discover who could be the potential customers or the people who have problems that are worth solving, then it's that much more difficult. So these 100 conversations require a lot of efforts. Besides having 100 conversations, the teams are required to put in a lot of efforts in doing assignments, making presentations, attending the workshops. So the work cannot be done by one person. And anyway, building a startup is not a one-man's job. It requires a team. And we will assign a business mentor. These mentors are, truly handpicked by GDC. These are, experienced, seasoned professionals in their own fields. And these mentors act as part of the team. And we will see what is the role of the mentor in the next slide. This is how a team is structured. And we do not take more than 10 teams per cohort because the amount of attention that is required. Even for a cohort of 8 teams, we have 4 instructors dedicated to the cohort. So it requires a lot of effort from the instructors as well and the program managers. So this is how the team is structured. The roles, first is the instructor's role. What we do as instructors in this program is, number one, we are not part of any team. We are the custodians of the process. We are interested in the team's learning, and we take all efforts to make sure that the teams have learned the process and are able to apply the process. But we do not become part of any one team. We are interested in the learning of the entire cohort, and therefore, we focus on the outcome that we focus on as instructors is not the success of the startup. It is actually the learning that the startup gains by attending this program, and they find answers to some fundamental questions like, what problem am I really solving, or what needs of customers am I really meeting by building the solution and building the startup? And that question it looks like a very simple question, an innocent question, but it is not. That's really where teams spend a lot of time, and the instructors help them in the process of discovering answers to those questions without really giving them the answers. And the answers come only by doing and by talking to customers. So this is not a program which is an academic program. So even though we use the word instructors, we really do not instruct per se. We are actually coaches, and we are also people who are holding the teams accountable to the process and to learning. That's what we do. And the last point here is really important. We do not give answers, or we do not give fish. We teach the teams how to fish. The mentors, while the instructors are not part of any team, the mentors are assigned to the team. So they become part of the team. And at the same time, they are also an extension of an instructor. Though the mentors may go beyond, simply, helping the team learn the process, and they may also make some connections for the team for these 100 discovery conversations. They may sometimes share from their experiences in the past, but they also do not really tell the teams what to do. They help the teams find out the answers on their own, and so they can help, but they don't necessarily directly give the answers. These are very experienced people, and we do not necessarily assign mentors based on the domain. So this is very different. Usually mentors are people who have been there, done it in that field or in that domain. Here we do not make that as a condition. We assign mentors who are familiar with this process, who are very convinced about this process, who have built their own startups in the past, and they have made the mistakes that teams could make in the past, and they could draw from those experiences, or they have been in large corporations creating new products and launching new businesses. So that's really how we look at our mentors, and not necessarily domain experts. The faculty leads, these are the principal investigators. So they are the main repository of technology. So in most cases, the idea is the faculty's idea. And the faculty comes to the program with a team who are researchers working with the faculty, or students who have been associated with the faculty. So in most cases, it is the faculty's idea. Therefore, the technology, the person who's most proficient with the technology and behind the idea is the faculty. Sometimes the researchers or students could also come up with an idea, and the faculty is fully involved in the technology behind the idea. And these are, like I said earlier, they are interested in creating an impact. So creating an impact through commercialization is really what the faculty gains by attending this program. Because they have an existing relationship even before they come to the program with the teams. They continue to inspire the team, they continue to motivate the team, and they're always available for the team to bounce off ideas, to have discussions, and they're very comfortable working with the team and vice versa. And in the process, the faculty lead also, gains some, benefits. They become more entrepreneurial in their thinking, and some of the faculties have gone ahead and have been entrepreneurs themselves. And finally, the entrepreneurial lead. This is really, what is important to pay attention to. These are the 3 or 5 people who come along with the faculty to this program. They are the ones who will be doing everything in this program. So, like I mentioned, there is a lot of work to be done. Besides speaking to 100 people, you also the team also needs to do a lot of assignments, learning, presentations, and so on. So sometimes we have noticed that even though there are 3 people or 4 people, one person actually pulls all the weight and the others, watch from the sidelines. That is not really going to help. So the teams that are planning to apply, please take note of the role of the entrepreneurial lead. In fact, I'll focus a little more, drill down a little more on the role of the entrepreneurial lead. This is what we expect of the entrepreneurial lead. The commitment to build a startup is the number one. We don't really charge anything to anyone. We don't ask for money from anyone to do this. But what we really ask from you is the commitment to build a startup. And we follow the flipped classroom methodology, which means all the reading material and videos to watch will be given to you before the sessions, the online sessions. And you learn, and then you come to the session and discuss with the instructors. It's not a classroom like in the academic environment where things are being taught. And 100 customers, we've already spoken about this, and understand the process of customer development. This is not a process that you learn for this program and then forget after this program. We don't conduct an exam at the end of the program and ask you, whether you have, understood, whether you have memorized, whether you can produce the right answers. That's not the purpose of this program. This is like running, cycling, and swimming. Once you have learned the process, it's there with you for life. And you can apply this to any number of ideas that you may come up with in the future. And you can build any number of startups using the same process. So therefore, this is a once in a lifetime kind of an opportunity to learn a skill that sticks with you and stays with you for life. And you get to leverage the experience of mentors and instructors. We strongly recommend the participants to be in touch with the mentors very closely and work with the mentors during the 8 weeks. Sometimes the mentors actually work with the teams even beyond the program because they have been able to add so much value. The teams seek the mentors out and give you 100% of the program. Finally, stay the course, because during the program, because it is intense, it is a boot camp, it is not an academic program, and the term boot camp is used in military. So this is literally going to be a boot camp environment, even though we are doing it remotely. The intensity will be like a boot camp, and sometimes teams can feel a little low because people are not saying what they would like to hear. A lot of things can go wrong, especially in the first few weeks, but the teams that stay strong and stay the course will be the winner all the way. This is how do we spend the 8 weeks? This is how we spend the 8 weeks. The onboarding session is what we are going through now. And at the beginning of the program, we will have 2 workshops. This will be on a weekend, on a Saturday and a Sunday. There will be full day workshops for 2 days. And then there is a gap of 1 week. And during this 1 week, teams meet about 15 to 20 potential customers. They come back for the workshop in the next weekend. So that's workshops 3 and 4. And after that, the team has 7 weeks to do customer discovery, which means the team has about, the team has time to talk to about 80 to 100 more people. We have a midpoint review sometime after 4 weeks. And we have webinars every week. During these 7 weeks, we have webinars. So we have a total of 5 webinars and 1 midpoint review during these 7 weeks. And finally, there is a closing workshop for 2 days. On the first day of the closing workshop, teams come and present make their final presentation, which which tells us what the journey has been. They also present a 2-minute video that tells us what the journey has been, how the entrepreneurs or how the the team has learned the process, how it has become more entrepreneurial in their thinking, and how their idea has evolved, how they have been able to discover their customers. All the stories are told in 2 minutes in a video and about 8 minutes in a presentation. That's a skill by itself, and that's what they learn by making presentations throughout the program. It's not just teaching the process. We actually make the team capable of articulating their idea and their story in such a short time. These are some of the teams that we've had many more, of course, but there are, just to accommodate them in this space, these are few alumni that have attended the INCUBATE program. As you can see, this prescribe is now it's in the medical healthcare space, technology for healthcare, and they are currently with the Y Combinator. So this team has gone ahead with their idea, and they have raised money, and they are at the Y Combinator now. This team is YUGL is producing water out of atmosphere, so atmospheric water generator. They are already serving customers. This team Solinos, is using robotics to inspect pipelines. We have a variety. Meraki is building something for women with urinary incontinence. Matrate is on the education space. Primo, they have already installed their first robo in the hospital, where they are making rehabilitation of patients much more interesting and exciting, using robotics to do physiotherapy and exercises. So we have a variety of startups who come to us. We don't necessarily go with only one domain or a few domains. Out of these, now we have two founders of INFU Labs and Modulus. So first I will invite Amit to speak about INFU. Amit was a student at IIT Madras. He has graduated in 2019. And Amit and his team came to the second cohort of the INCUBATE program. So he's one of our early participants. So after graduating, he continued with his idea, and currently he is supported by the Indian Angel Network. His startup is already incubated, and he has been working on a technology that can scan and assess the quality of fruits without really cutting the fruit and checking it. This is just one of the use cases. It's very interesting that we speak about fruits now, but when he came to the program, he came with an idea of matching colors in textiles and paints. So how he has been able to pivot, his journey has been very interesting. I would like to invite Amit to speak about his journey. Amit, can you please switch on your video and share with us?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, KV sir, for having me here. I'm audible?
Yes, you are.
And thanks, GDC team. It's a pretty pleasure to talk about a place where I have actually attended a long time before. And it's pretty exciting to talk among all the other participants. I'm pretty much sure that they're gonna have a very lovely time with the entire GDC team and gonna improve their understanding. Coming from my own part, as all of you can actually relate that majority of us come from a technology background, and that's where the thing came in. Because when we joined GDC, we thought, okay, we have something amazing product, determine color of any object with a pretty minute accuracy, and we thought, whoa, we are pretty much ready to enter into the market and start selling out, make some millions and so. But the moment we actually started interacting with the mentors, and more than that, we started interacting with customers. That's where something started hitting us. This is not something which a customer is ready to buy, because it's taking money out from a person. It's a very challenging task. That's where you have to start delivering something, and which is where to me, my business understanding, I'm pretty much give a good appreciation to entire GDC team, how they actually transformed me and my team's business understanding from a technological point of view to how we actually start delivering it to the customer. What are we actually supposed to give them, and which is the point, customers see a big value to us, or what should the channels should be. And this all you're gonna learn from the entire GDC team. You will be having an amazing mentor. Like KV sir have actually mentored us directly, and then Raghu sir is also there, and all of these people will gonna take you to a pretty good height. That I'm pretty sure. My only take to all you would be, if you have a time, and trust me, take this program if you can actually commit a good amount of time to it, because that's where the important need is. Thing is, don't take this as a just participating in another accelerator. We have taken part in a lot of accelerators, to be honest, and the way other accelerator works and the incubate sort of program works is entirely different. You have to actually commit to the proper program, and as well as your mentors are going to commit, and it's a pretty interesting one-on-one sessions which is going to happen. Your entire customer discovery process, starting from who is your real customer. As KV sir actually mentioned, that we started from doing critical color shade matching of any object, and by the time we started getting the market insight, and so we started understanding that okay, this is not a point where we have actually more market, rather we have one more customer segment which was lined up in front of us, and that's where we started building out of it, and currently now we have progressed pretty much into that. So that is on my entire journey has been through, and even now as well, while we have been while we have been at a slightly mature state, whenever I feel some sort of confusion, and so I just right away call to my GDC mentors, and they start supporting me of started teaching me my initial learnings of how the things have been. So yeah, thanks a lot, KV sir, for giving me the opportunity to talk about my experience, and it's pretty exciting.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks for coming and sharing with us. If you were to share, your top 2 or 3 takeaways from this program, just the top 2 or 3, what would you say?
The first thing is the word value proposition. To be honest, I never understood the word at an earlier time, but when we started going together along with the GDC, that's where I started understanding this value proposition. What we think about a product is never something which the customer wants. For a customer, it can be a very minute thing also. For example, I think most of the people who gonna apply would be related to a text or sometimes deep text segment, and they think that something like AI is a value proposition, but it's never the case. If you can deliver something with Excel also, that is something which is pretty exciting. Right. And then the second thing which you actually talked about is talking to a stranger. To build up a business, you have to learn it from the day one, that what talking to a stranger means. I still remember one of my session where I went to Tirupur, and I know only English and Hindi, and the person, they only knew Tamil, and we still somehow started interacting and learning more about it. So talking to a stranger to actually take out their needs, what they actually want, rather than you asking the question. That is something which is very exciting, which I want each of these participants to learn about. That is going to help them in the future.
Right. So if you had not attended the INCUBATE program, would you still be doing INCUBATE, or would you be doing something else?
I would have actually gotten demotivated after initial learnings, and maybe end up taking some job or somewhere, or probably I don't know how that would have been. But yeah, the learnings which I got, that okay, this is gonna happen. This is how customers are going to trash you. Hold on to it, just take a learning, and start improvising. The word pivot, that's what we actually understood in GDC program, which actually addressed in how do we take this forward. So yeah, it actually so-called motivated me to take my venture ahead in a good direction.
That's excellent. Just for everyone's information, I mentioned that Amit is now being supported by the Indian Angel Network. He's raised money, and he is already doing pilots with some of the big names in the country. Amit, all the best. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thanks, KV sir. Thanks, GDC.
Thank you. I will invite the next founder to speak to us. The next founder to speak to us is Sriram. Sriram is a very busy man. It's been very difficult to get him. And, I don't want to steal the thunder from Sriram, because the recent COVID, pandemic has presented fantastic opportunities for this startup, and Sriram will talk about it and how his startup has zoomed in the last 1.5 years. Sriram and team also came to us when they were in the final year of their BTech program at IIT Madras, and they came with an idea to build modular housing. So if you look at the company's name, Modulus Housing, that's what they do. So they came up with an idea to build homes off the construction site. And one of the key value propositions, I'm stealing from Amit now, one of the key value propositions that Sriram spoke about when he attended the program was portability. And we will hear from Sriram whether portability is still the value proposition, or is there another superstar value proposition that he has discovered after the program. But Sriram, I don't want to really steal the thunder because I think you have some great news to share with us. Can I please ask you to turn on your video and share your experience with us?
Hi everyone, this is Sriram here. Hi sir, it's always a pleasure to be back in GDC. And I see Raghu sir is also here. Hi. So yeah, the journey has been really great from where we were to where we are. So I'll just give at least we know how we started off back then when we joined GDC, but there are 40 more people over here. So back then, that's right after my graduation, 2018, BTech in Civil Engineering. So we were doing product development. That is all we have been doing for past 2 to 3 years before coming to GDC. So the problem was very clear. So we had a technology. We knew it is going to benefit people, but we also knew there are sectors where this will be benefited, but we didn't know the path. How are we going to take the product there? So GDC came in over there, gave us a very structured methodology and innovations and ideas to how to take the product to the market and to the customer. So there were, actually there's no one single instance, there were several learnings that we took home, but something which I would like to highlight is the overall mind shift from inventor's mind shift to a customer's mind shift. So we shifted from being the inventor and we became the customer during the GDC process. Yeah, back then, to be honest, like even we were half-minded because there were strict rules. Like we're going to like kind of leave the product away for like 2 months, and we're going to focus only on this. So that was something we didn't understand back then. So now it has paid off really well, because before GDC, all we have been doing is just building the product. And of course, we did attend few business model competitions where it would pay off, it will give you a prize money or so. So we got to know GDC doesn't give that as well. But the learnings that it gave, which has come a very long way, because even till date, when we are launching a new product or a project, we go back to the notes taken in GDC. Like we refer to the concepts, we see if it's valuing everyone in this chain, like starting from the purchaser, decision maker, and so. So it's a very exciting journey. And I got to know of GDC from my friend, a fellow entrepreneur, Tan90. So he referred me to the program. And yeah, it has been we have come a long way. So back then we were thinking portability was going to be the game changer. But later on we realized, no, it's asset, right? It's a building. No one actually cares about portability. So right now, the value proposition that we're offering is more like the time of construction. So right now our vision is to make construction on assembly line, just like how your cars and automobiles is getting manufactured. So that has come a long way, and getting the products done immediately. And the opportunity loss, because generally a construction takes a year. When we're getting it delivered in 3 weeks to 4 weeks, of course, there is a lot of value add that the people do. So these are some of the unique selling points that we do right now, which has helped us to go from probably like from just a product when we were back in GDC to right now we are into a couple of sectors, and from zero revenue, we have gone up to like close to $10 million and so. So it's a great journey, yeah. And to the people here, definitely I would say like trust the process. You have great mentors and faculties over there. So definitely trust the process and get the maximum out of it.
Sriram has been a great example of how stressed a team can get during this program. Right. So, the presentations, they're always made in a hurry, and in the middle of the program, towards the end of the program, in fact, his brother got married. So there were a lot of things happening in his life when he was attending this program, and he would be scrambling for his assignments and presentations. So it is a standing example of how exciting this program can be. But in the middle of all of that, he still came back and did everything that the program required because he was actually able to derive value even then. I remember, how Sriram, you used to come back and report your conversations with L&T and report your construction sites, visiting construction sites. And, we still, remember those days. You just mentioned in the passing $10 million. I would like you to actually now speak a little more about how big you have grown, how much revenue you have been able to generate, or the value of orders you have been able to generate recently, and tell us about what has happened in the last 1.5 years for the startup. You can't just say in passing $10 million.
Okay. So yeah, we were starting off with a single sector. So the whole idea of Modulus came out of disaster relief. I was part of an NGO where Chennai floods happened. I think you all know the story, like where we developed this rapid shelter for Chennai floods. So disaster relief has always been a market, but again, it's not sustainable on its own. So we needed to find different markets where this kind of technology will be really a value add. So we identified several sectors starting from construction sites. So the visits to the L&T sites and construction sites in Hodson paid off. So we got some pilots and few big projects from L&T, startup projects, Shapurji Palunjis. And also we bagged in big orders from the oil and gas sector like Bharat Petroleum and Hindustan Petroleum and so for their oil refineries. And moving into the other sectors, we started focusing on rural construction. So in rural areas, the construction is always time consuming. And most importantly, you don't get the materials there or you don't get the manpower there. So when you do it in a factory, you're able to get everything on a single roof. Like that is what manufacturing plants are, right? And also the most importantly, we are able to maintain some quality and standards. Because when you do in rural India, obviously your L&T is not going to come and build a small house or schools or hospitals over there. It's going to be a local mason. And most of the time, the quality and standards go for a toss. So when we do it in a factory, the approvals and standards, everything just becomes a one-time process, just replicated again and again for all the 1,000 cabins or 10,000 cabins we sell. So that's the whole idea of standardizing things and launching it. So we went on to set up rural schools in multiple places and rural hospitals. And as I told, disaster relief is always a call for market. When disaster happens, of course, Modulus will respond to it. And when COVID happened back then, before COVID happened, we had actually launched some rural clinics and rural hospitals with NGOs. So that experience actually helped us, and government took notice of it and called us for a co-development program where we developed a specialized product for COVID-19. And that again, we launched in a couple of states. And yeah, so the horizon, again, we were able to cover because of this prefab technology. As we have projects sitting in Kanyakumari, we have done projects in Jammu and Kashmir and the other two extremes as well, Gujarat as well as Meghalaya. So a simple thing is that prefab again does that to you. And most importantly, identifying customers over there. So back then when we had L&T sitting over here, whose headquarters is in Chennai, we were struggling to go get a meeting there. So right now, understanding the customer helps us to take the product all the way to Meghalaya as well. So yeah.
Excellent. So you've still not spoken about the money.
No, the funding actually, we haven't raised any funds. Luckily, we have been bootstrapped.
The revenue,
And,
the order
revenues, we have logged in around 82 to 83 crores. And we have a pipeline under discussion, which is almost getting confirmed for next 70 to 80 crores. That's again with Meghalaya, Manipur markets. So the lucky part is we understood in the Northeast, there's very less penetration about construction, like big companies are not there. So it's been a sweet market for us. And yeah, some co-developments are going on with defense and military. So we'll be signing a MOU with them by January for an order. So that's again happening. So yeah.
Excellent, Sriram. The way you have been able to scale is amazing. Only 2 people were there in the team. And now I understand that he has about 40 people working and there are 4 co-founders in the team. Amazing how you have been able to scale. We really, we admire you. Thank you for joining us today and sharing your journey with us. Wishing you all the best. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Have a very nice day. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Sriram and Amit. So, so let me now welcome a special guest today to our program. We have Professor Satyanarayan Chakravarti. He's a professor in the Department of Aerospace Engineering at IIT Madras. He also heads a very important center, which is an NCCRD, which is the National Center for Combustion R&D. And his work of research straddles several spaces, primarily into aerospace combustion engines and thermodynamics and all of that. But he's here because he's one of the champions of innovation at IIT and even beyond. And as far as I know of Professor Satya, he has at least half a dozen high-tech startups, at least half a dozen that I know of. He probably has more. So therefore, he's been with us for 2 programs, 2 cohorts, and both the startups have done exceptionally well. So I will invite Professor Satya here. Please switch on your video, Satya, and tell us about your experience. Tell us about the startups you have. Tell us, how this program has changed. What is good, bad, ugly about us? There's lots of professors here in the audience from several leading colleges, and I'm sure there are several researchers as well. So I think you will be held in great. You will be heard in great respect and eagerness. So over to you, Satya.
Thanks, Raghu. Can you see my video? You said
yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all those kind words. Question is where to start. So, okay. GDC is basically my classroom for entrepreneurship. So until I was into GDC, and I think I was kind of like herded into GDC because we were actually trying to do an electric plane, and we had a NRI who was actually willing to put a lot of money, and then he backed out, and I had no idea how to raise funds, nothing. And so when he backed out, we had no idea what we were going to do, and then the students simply pivoted, and then in fact we probably pivoted before we heard what is meant by pivoting. and the pivot led us to GDC, right? And the students basically signed up saying they wanted to actually do drones. I was actually into air taxis, and that was like a huge fall for me in that sense. But doesn't matter, anything that flies is good for me, right? So that's what aerospace is all about. So we said, let's actually do drones. And then I think the students were always looking at it in a very, what should I say, to use a very bad word, maybe in a cheap way, because they were actually going to get something like what, 1.75 lakhs of some travel money or something. So they thought that they can actually even build a drone with it and stuff. I said, no, that's not what they're giving the money for. You got to be understanding that. And then halfway through it, we also figured that drones were illegal, and we had a huge problem with that. Right. So, and then we had to actually figure out what is legal about drones and stick to those customer clientele. Otherwise, it would look like GDC was supporting something illegal. So we had to worry about all those things at that time. But during that process, I mean, up until then, I was, we could say that a lot of things that we hear or learn from GDC or any of these, even if you go to like for example, a business school or a MBA, right, it would all look like very commonsensical after the fact, okay? But then it's not for nothing that people actually go through MBA and so on to learn that it is commonsensical, and common sense is not the most common thing anyway, right? So it is sort of understood that if you are actually wanting to do some entrepreneurship, you need to worry about the market, and you need to worry about the customer and all of those things. But the biggest problem that we find as people who are developing any technology is the ego. So our ego to get wedded to the technology because it is something that we have developed. I mean, the fact that the GDC essentially kind of like knocks huge sense into your head. It basically says, nobody really cares a damn about your technology, right? You go find out what this technology is all about, how it's going to be useful to somebody. And in fact, don't even try to formulate a product a priori, right? You need to get a lot of customer validation for your product idea before you actually even have a concept of product. Don't crystallize your product. Try to understand what the customer is looking for from a product of this kind and so on. That is a huge humbling experience for a faculty member, for example, because faculty members are actually in a very, very very tight, cozy comfort zone. They are doing their science, they're doing their, I mean, I think this was actually said very, very eloquently by, what's his name? Raghu Rangaswamy, right? So I mean, this was actually really bad, right? So if you submit a paper and then it gets rejected, okay, you throw in a couple of more assumptions in your analysis and then you get another paper out. Right? I mean, you can call it pivoting if you want, but you know, it's not putting a product out and getting it to work and getting it to work to customer satisfaction is not the same as, you know, making a couple of more assumptions and pushing a paper out. So the comfort zone that if you've been a faculty member for quite some time, going through the churn of guiding PhD students and doing research experiments and writing papers, going to conferences, delivering keynote lectures, all of that stuff has actually now become like a rigmarole. And that's a huge comfort zone that you actually get into. And much more than that, you also tend to think that you're actually doing a great job. Okay, I mean, maybe you're doing a great job if that is what the job description is all about, but what is the impact are you creating, right? Are you okay with that? Do you have this you know, feeling, is that all there is? Is there something more we can we do? Is there a way by which my technology can get out of the lab and meet the market and, you know, get to people? If you have any of those kinds of angst, you need to pull yourself out of the comfort zone and walk into GDC. That's what I would say, right? Because GDC kind of chops the ego out of your head and makes it very humbling when you have to meet 100 customers, go through this, you know, learn all the ABCs of the lean startup model. I mean, all these things have now become like mantras that I chant now on a daily basis, right? So the lean startup model, the business model canvas, the product market fit. So you believe it or not, this morning I was actually guiding a bunch of, earlier this afternoon, I was guiding a bunch of people who are trying to split water to make hydrogen, right? I said, next August 15th, you should actually be targeting to run 50 buses and flagged off by the union minister in his constituency, right? You need to be able to raise funds for doing something like that. Otherwise, your hydrogen is of no use, right? So unless you actually directly say, what's your product going to be out of the technology, right? And what is the market for that product? So these are all things that are pulling us way out of our comfort zone, right? You almost stand stripped naked when you're now saying that I won't actually take my technology out and nobody cares, right? And that is okay. Just to sugarcoat that becomes like our eureka moment in that sense, because, you know, talking of, you know, being naked. So that's what GDC does to us, and it's a hugely awakening moment. I have learned a lot. I mean, I was a nerd. I mean, all I was doing is like, I would do my research. I would just go to my conferences. I've been doing spectacular research, great center, whatever it is, right? All of that was great, going great. And then all of a sudden you have to go do entrepreneurship 101 with GDC. And at that time, I was still kind of like upset that GDC is still not talking about like, how do I actually go and face investors? How do I raise money? You know, all of that, because there is so much more to entrepreneurship than just the product, right? And the customers. But I think what it does is exactly what we need to do, right? If you do what GDC is asking you to do, everything else will fall in place. You will get the investors that you want, because you are actually putting where, you know, putting words where your mouth is, or whatever that phrase is, right? So customers is actually the most important thing. If you're able to figure out your customers, you will get your investors. It was not very clear to me when I was going through the GDC program, but subsequently it was actually very clear, because when we now go and talk to investors keep asking the same question: where are your customers, right? Have you talked to them? Have you validated your customer hypothesis or your use cases? What's your product market fit? All of these questions, you know, we can just answer just like that, right? The moment you actually go through a GDC program. Now, that said, the thing about GDC for us, right? So as Raghu pointed out, that we have like about half a dozen very deep tech startups. We are making rockets, we are making planes, we are making aircraft engines that are repurposed for power generation, which are now finding multiple use cases, including power generation onboard trucks as a range extender, or what is it, a hybrid electric vehicle, if you will. We have satellite startup, right? All of those things. It is very important for us to actually find out which of these will actually fit the GDC bill the best, because the fundamentals of GDC is still correct, right? It's just that for us to be able to actually find somewhere of the order of 100 customers within 7 weeks is not possible for a rocket startup, right? To find customers for an air taxi company in 7 weeks, 100 customers, it may not be possible, right, in the incubate program, right? So when you're now looking at some very, very niche, high-tech products where the number of customers that are actually going to be there, you will find 100 customers. It's not as if like you can't find. It's just that it's going to take like about a month or a year, sorry, a year or two for you to be able to actually get those 100 customers. You can't do that in 7 weeks. That's the biggest problem, right? Because the kind of customers you're talking about are really, really high, high worth customers. People are actually thinking about putting millions of dollars, in acquiring your product and stuff. So it's not going to be easy for you to be able to actually set up a meeting and say, I want to, do this for the purpose of GDC. And the kind of, the evolution of the BMC, the product market fit, all of that stuff happens over several months to over a year for us in large scale startups, like the kind of thing that we do. But the fundamentals were very important. So when I accidentally stepped into GDC for the first program where we were simply doing drones, and then still got caught up in this illegality a bit, right? Despite that, I think the learnings were amazing. And the next opportunity that we had was actually with the gas turbine, micro gas turbine startup. The company did not have enough number of people to actually do the legwork, and they wouldn't bite into it, but I still really wanted them to do it. I was advocating GDC to them much more than what Raghu or Shiva would do. I still remember that lunch meeting that we had, right? I was his ambassador. But the next opportunity I had was the satellite startup, where I thought, hey, this is a good opportunity for you to go to GDC. I pushed them, they pivoted, and so on. So all of that stuff actually went by script, what is supposed to happen with GDC, the kind of impact that it does to these startups. So whenever possible, I actually try to advocate any of the people that I work with to go to GDC, because it's a huge learning process for us, particularly I think for faculty members, because the kind of change in outlook that it brings for faculty is a lot more when compared to students, because students I think would go with a much more open mind, whereas I think faculty don't even know that they have a closed mind. That's a problem, right?
So Satya, you've really spoken more than I would have spoken. So thank you very much. So, but let me ask you one question. You came with not one startup, but two startups, as you said. One was that E-Plane. Where are these companies now? I mean, it's what 1.5 to 2 years since you finished.
Right.
So they must have gone.
As I said, the go-to-market time for these startups is actually extremely long, right? It takes about 3 or 4 years for us to develop the product. The interesting thing is Agnikul, which is the rocket startup, is supposed to actually be going to their first launch to orbit by next year, sometime second half. But they already have actually, so they're planning. In fact, just about last 1 hour, we were with ISRO teams talking about getting access to Sriharikota for launching the suborbital flight, for which they have lined up customers, and it's actually oversubscribed. What was supposed to be just a test with investor money now actually is generating revenues, where they didn't even expect that there will be customers for a suborbital test that doesn't go to space and then comes back, like the one that Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos did, right? So we are actually going to take like about a 10 kg payload that is actually being paid for, which we didn't even expect. So we are actually getting money for testing, right? So they're testing our own hardware. That's happening later this year or early next year. So we're talking to ISRO about it. On E-Plane, again, about the same time frame, first quarter of next year is when we will actually have our first prototype, but we will have to go through a fairly long certification process. But before which, again, thanks to a GDC type thinking, we would probably get it certified for cargo handling, so that by the end of next year, we should be getting certified for cargo, so that we can actually push it into the cargo market. But for the air taxi application, it could be about 2024 is when we can probably do a urban aerial mobility application with passengers after certification of the plane. So that's where we are. But in terms of fundraise, I think Agnikul has gone through about 3 rounds of funding, close to about $15 million. And E-Plane is actually at the verge of closing a $5 million deal. For the second round, we raised about $1 million last time. And Galaxy has actually raised about, I think, 2.5 crores, and they are planning to actually raise another $5 million before the end of this year, and so on. So, I mean, we are kind of big ticket, but product is yet to be seen like over time. That's how it is.
Wonderful. This is really inspiring. I mean, I know your teams were tough. We fought with your teams about delivering pizza, and until Bhaskar Ramurthy stepped in, they wanted to deliver pizza to hostels, and he had to get in and say no. So yeah. I remember your teams were tough.
It is just about becoming legal right now.
I know.
So many years.
So very good. Very good to hear you. I think this kind of first-hand experience, even it's very gratifying for us to know that even faculty can learn from in the manner that you actually articulated. Thank you very much.
The ones who have to learn.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very much. And KV, I hand it back to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Raghu.
Thank you, Satya.
Thank you. Thanks, Satya.
Thanks. Kind of like a family homecoming.
Thank you. Bye. So now we're going to talk about some dates, important dates for the upcoming cohort 17 of the INCUBATE program. We started the application process. Call for application went out on the 23rd of July. The last date for applying is 11th of August. And the program itself starts on 3rd of September and it ends on 30th October. So these are some important dates that you can take note of. We have a lot more details, but as you apply and as you go through the process, we will give you all the details. But these are some important dates that you can take note of. And what are the application requirements? Number one, this program requires the idea to come from a lab. So it's a science-based idea from lab. A lot of you may have questions about this. Hold on to your questions. During the Q&A, you can ask the questions because we usually get asked this question, what do you mean by science-based? Does this idea qualify and so on? So if you look at Sriram, for example, he was building modular housing. And how did modular housing qualify for this program if it is science-based? And how do you actually look at it and so on and so on? So this is the first requirement. Second, the technological feasibility is proven. We are not expecting the product to be ready. In fact, we do not want the product to be ready. But the feasibility that this solution can be built or this technology can be made to work is something that we look for, which is why the faculty lead plays a critical role. The faculty lead can validate and tell us that, yes, this is possible. So even if we may not have clarity about using drones to deliver pizzas and medicines, but Satya can tell us that this drone will fly. We can make a drone that will fly. So that's really what we are looking for. The team is led by an academic faculty. We saw that. And the team has at least 3 entrepreneurial leads. And these are our requirements. And finally, the team shows the commitment to build a startup. So these are the requirements. So if you meet these requirements, you are ready for application. Now I'll open it for Q&A.
Okay, so thank you, Anand and Rajiv. As Anand mentioned, we will open the floor for question and answers. And please unmute yourself and ask a question, or you could raise your hand and we'll call you out in turn.
First question always takes 5 minutes.
Yes.
We'll wait.
So Kaushal Gujarati is asking a question through me.
Yes.
Yes. Kaushal, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes. Thank you so much. It was really a wonderful session, I guess. So I'm currently a postgraduate student at IIT Hyderabad. So my question is regarding the criteria for applying. Okay. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm actually attending from my phone, so
that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so with mobile phones.
My question is regarding the application requirement. So we currently have some students from IIT Madras, IIT Hyderabad, and some other students who are common-minded, and we are trying to build a platform. I don't think it has a very scientific background, but we are actually trying to build a edutech kind of a platform. So does this come under the science from lab concept? And we currently do not have any faculty members guiding us, but we are very much into it, and we have been working on this idea since 3 to 4 months now. So am I eligible to apply?
You're definitely eligible to apply. I think
Okay.
one of the criteria we have is we need to have a faculty, because we would like to support a lab to market movement. That's the purpose of this. So that's the first preference we give to it. Many a time the applicants don't know, whether this qualifies or doesn't qualify. So it's very hard to take a judgment on a query like this. So put some science into it, get it some, if it is just a mere app that you're building,
No,
we
it
would
is
not
not.
view it. But if there's something more to it and it has something some meaningful impact, you're doing an MTech from IIT Hyderabad and several others are there. If there's some engineering input into it, by all means bring it out. And we'll definitely consider it. But I don't want to say yes or no, in a very summary manner like this. But please do apply.
Yeah, sure, sir. We are very focused and committed to build a startup. So we'll definitely apply. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaushal. Mr. Nani? Mr. Nani, can you hear us? Please unmute yourself.
I think there's another question on the chat, Triveni, you might want to ask.
Yeah, that's from Akshay. He was in our Inspire program. Akshay, please go ahead, unmute yourself, turn on your video. We'd like to see you again and ask a question. Yes.
Hi, Akshay.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Akshay. How are you?
I'm good. So I just wanted to ask that, is it really compulsory for a team to have 3 members?
Shay, you did 30 interviews or 40 interviews?
30 interviews.
30 interviews.
Yeah.
You know how difficult it was for you to do that.
Yes.
So you tell me now, 2 is enough or you need 3?
Currently, actually, we have 2 members, member team only, and we are running to a startup. So can we apply to that? That is one of the things.
Yeah, we've seen, how committed you were, in the short program that we did with you, and by all means, please apply. But we'll still ask you to make an effort to find the 3rd member.
Yeah, sure. We will try to at least have someone by then.
Because it's it better than anybody else. So,
Yeah, definitely. Sure.
Thank you, Akshay.
Hello, madam. I'm Nani.
Yes, please go ahead. If you can turn on your video, that would be great.
Hello, madam. I'm Nani. Presently, I'm working in DRDO, and I registered myself as a PhD scholar in the IIT Tirupati. And this is regarding actually the scrap, e-waste and scrap regarding idea. Actually, I started as a hobby. Just like developing a website in 2015 or 16 that time, and afterwards I didn't take it forward. So actually, the idea is to collect. We are throwing out all the old mobiles and all, but very few scrap collectors are there, and idea is to buy the scrap from online using the app-based or web-based, and then initially to transport them to the nearest scrap recycler, and then afterwards we may think about extracting the gold or platinum out of the chips and all those things. Actually, is it applicable to this GDC? This idea?
Yes. So we've had similar ideas come to our cohorts earlier, where they've created a platform, a marketplace kind of a platform, where it's an exchange for e-waste, really. And I think your idea is very similar to that. We have worked with such teams, and the team has benefited a lot. I'm sure you will benefit too. Please apply.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nani. So Harish and team.
Yeah, so good evening. This is Karthik Ramesh here and Harish from my team. We are from a company, US company called as EMITS, and we have set up our R&D presence here in we are actually currently in IIT Madras Research Park. We have our global R&D research and innovation labs there. We are keen to kind of take some of our early stage prototypes and if I can say MVPs to a product stage. We are more of an IT services company focused on the US healthcare market. We want to embark on the product side of things, and we want to create like a platform for enabling IoT-based, device-based healthcare services. So that's the purpose for which we kind of signed up for this session. So we wanted to know, as a corporate who has a presence in IIT Madras Research Park. In fact, today is the 6th month of our completion here. We established here on 5th of February this year. And we are here today to hope and see if we can incubate our idea through this program with all the expert mentorship, so that we can take it to market in terms of a reality. So how will it work for a company like ours, who is a IIT Madras Research Park R&D client, and to also have presence in the US as a healthcare services company?
Again, we have worked with similar teams in the past. And the fact that you are already at the IIT Madras Research Park will probably also give you access to a faculty lead at IIT Madras. So if you can get a faculty lead from IIT Madras to come together with you for the new products that you are trying to launch in the market, and then do customer discovery for those products, you can apply. You're welcome. We already have corporates also working with us, but they have teamed up with research institutions and institutions like Indian Institute of Science. We have already worked with teams like that. Since you're at the research park, I'm sure you have the right support that is available to you.
Great to hear. And a couple of us will be involved. I mean, not me, I'm from BITS. My colleague is from IIT Madras. He's an alumnus. So we are really looking forward to the mentorship and partnership in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kaushal wants to ask another question.
Yes, I'm sorry, but I have another question. I would like to know about the INSPIRE program. I visited the website, but I was not able to find details about it. So can you please give me some details?
The INSPIRE program, is a shorter program, number one, and and that's not what makes it different from INCUBATE. The INCUBATE program is aimed at new ideas that are coming out of the lab, where a faculty and the research scholars and the students, they come together and try to commercialize the idea. That's really where INCUBATE fits. If you look at the INSPIRE program, it may not necessarily be a faculty supported idea or a faculty's idea. It could be a startup that is still in the participants are still in an academic institution like an IIT or an IISc, and they have come up with an idea. They are already thinking about building a startup, and for them that program is useful. Like I said, it's a shorter program. The framework is still being used in the INCUBATE program and the INSPIRE program. However, the flavor is very different. The objective is also different. So rather than explaining the INSPIRE program here, I would like you to contact us separately. We can explain it to you.
Yeah, I have actually contacted, I don't know the name, the professors in the website, but I was not able to get any reply. So,
okay, we will now that we have your contact, we will get back.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, sir.
Just another question. We are from a startup, so currently we are working on the wind turbine, but we don't have any faculty member attached with us right now. So that faculty part, is it provided by the incubate program, or what? What it is like? I don't understand.
We do not provide the faculty, but we
Yeah,
can guide you
connect.
about how you can
Okay.
go about getting a faculty to support.
Okay. Sure.
You already are working with Sign, so
Yeah.
you have some familiarity with IIT Bombay. So we can guide you how to go about it, but we don't provide the faculty.
Okay. Sure. No problem.
One point I'd like to make, as you apply, because look at the eligibility criteria, we would need to stick by that. So if you need 3 people, we would need a minimum of 3 entrepreneurs on the team. It's very hard to do justice to yourself on this program with 2 people, however committed you are. Similarly, the reason why we insist on a faculty or a technical expert is we really want to look at the technology being robust. Otherwise it becomes very hard to say yes or no to people who come, with technology, which is something they have developed. So we really want someone who's really spent time and expertise and brings expertise to the table. And that's the reason why we say have a scientist with you. It doesn't have to be a faculty from a college. It could be a scientist in a corporate R&D, or it could be in a national research institution. Doesn't matter. A scientist of some standing, who will ensure the technology works. You heard Professor Chakravarti, Satya Chakravarti speak about so many things, but that's the solidity of technology that's there. And then we are trying to solve the other problems that help build a startup. We don't want technology to come in the way and become an issue. So please look at the eligibility criteria, and we are flexible, but we'll obviously have to take exceptions one by one. I think Triveni has posted the link again on the chat to those who want to look at how to register. We have another 10 days to go. So please do look at the registration. As some of the participants have explained, the program is truly transformational. I mean, it's not a pitch that we are making, because we're doing it for free. We don't charge anything. We don't get anything out of it. The whole idea of GDC is to transform the academic and research system and make it more capable to do research. So to those institutions who have not been with GDC, you have the chance to experience this and be the path leader in your institution. And of the 150 odd startups that we have worked with, every one of them has had faculty who have gone back and researchers who have gone back and literally become change agents in their departments or institutes or what have you. So look at it from that point of view. This is the 17th cohort, and it'll be great for you, because now that the mood for startups is very good. The mood for deep tech startups will be very good, and it'll be great to have many people who were from institutes that we have not worked with, and of course with people we have also worked with. Any other questions? We are there. We are patient. We have time. Don't look at the clock and no, don't ask. Please ask if you have a question. I just want to call out to Professor Hirwani, who is here. Thank you. We are honored by your presence here, Dr. Hirwani.
Thank you. It is my pleasure. I actually wanted to learn your experience. And I want to offer, if you can anytime require my help as a mentor to some of these people in customer discovery, techno-commercial evaluation, or connecting them to some technical resources, I'll be more than happy to join the effort.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hirwani. That's really, really very gracious of you to offer that.
You. Wonderful session you had.
Thank you. When you just keep it open, somebody might get a question.
Sure. Yeah.
Else, Just wait for a minute and then we could close.
Yeah, do that. If you do have a network issue and want to ask a question, you can post it on the chat window too. You can answer it.
Actually, Harish wants to ask some question. He has put in the chat box, but I don't know why he's not speaking.
What is that?
Harish,
Talk,
They already spoke actually. That
okay.
was 3 minutes. So they've already spoken.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Right. So shall we close the session then?
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for joining us today. And we will be in touch. We'll actually send you the link that I posted on the chat window. We will also send it to you by email, along with the recording of today's session. So in case your team members or faculty or anybody else who was interested has not been able to attend today, please do share it with them so that they can understand what the program is about. And we will also be happy to answer any queries by email if you have after looking at the session or looking at the application form. All right. Okay. So thank you very much. And we request you all to log out now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.